So I want you to understand why I go on Facebook Live every single day. Like, why? Because it is my own Jillian University. Okay, so I have $60,000 in student loans, and actually 50,000 of it is really only what I have. Everything else is all the interest from how long. All right, so I went to school intermittently, but when you're raised in an area like Silicon Valley, when you're next door to people who were famous during their times because of the tech world, and then you're going to school with people who have high level degrees, you're going to school with people who are really talented, and I barely even fucking graduated high school. Not even, actually. I left, actually, junior high in 8th grade. So, and then taking on the student loans and taking on everything and learning everything, the drive to succeed was so freaking intense that it didn't matter what, if what I was learning was going to be appropriate. I had to learn everything. I had to understand people. I had to understand the processes. I had to understand the industries. Even when I went to school and there are people that were smarter than me, I would hang out with the smartest person in the classroom. I would, as far as the colleges I went to. And when I saw someone was having some issues and I knew they weren't going to go down the road that I was wanting to go down, I let go of them like almost immediately. I wasn't going to entertain someone who was having issues. I mean, I have my own issues, so I'm not going to entertain somebody else with issues. And so I was always trying to raise myself up to the level of the smartest person in my world at the time. And when they were done with me and I was done with them, then we move on to the next. We all, and so that drive to succeed, then realizing that even college can't give you everything that you want, because what did I go into the last time I went to college? It was for organizational development, which, okay, it was good, and leadership. And so that was all about team building and globalization and all the business process reengineering and learning, what is it? The standards, something standards that is universal everywhere. Okay. I forget what that's called. Let me see if I can Google that so I can be complete. Universal standards. What is it? I don't know. What is that? I forget that's called. Oh, it's like best practices. And there is another name for it, but that's okay. There's best practices and all that. But anyways, so there is global best practices. There's so many business process stuff to learn. And then, of course, the IT side of it, because I was going to school with people who were in the tech world, and I was just listening to them talk about their jobs and just pulling out information, just picking their brain. And then after that, then all my life experience, and finally, the whole J world stuff, right? And then I'm like, okay, I gotta learn stuff. I'm getting dinged by the government because I'm breaking laws and making claims and pissing everyone off. So I'm like, okay, let me figure this out. So I go on Facebook Live every day to talk to myself, because I really can't talk people out there. I really can't. My husband can kind of sort of get certain things, but not everything. And he's not going to sit here and just listen to me lecture him or ask him so many questions. And then who out there, when I'm learning stuff and I want to bounce it off somebody out there, really understands me? Okay? I'll talk about stuff and they're just like, the eyes glaze over. They don't want to hear it. And so there's no one to really talk to about this kind of stuff. There really is nobody. And so if you're going to want to learn something, you have to fucking teach it yourself. It's like you have all this audience in your body that you want to talk to. It's like your peers, but they're in your body. And then you can answer your own questions. You can ask yourself questions, answer your own questions, even come from a different perspective. And so the addiction of me going every day, it's not like an addiction like it's a bad thing. It is the drive to fucking learn, the drive to hear myself. And even like yesterday, I corrected myself around what I thought around the blood types and cancer and blood type A and B and stuff. But that's all fertility. And when you think about it, blood type O has so much offspring because they have antibodies for both A and B, right? those who are A and B, blood type, well, they have some offspring, but not others. So there's energy being used that they don't have an offspring for to cultivate something. So it's being localized in wherever areas. And I couldn't tell you how that was programmed because everybody's different. But people like me and, Audrey, blood type O, whether it's positive or negative, that you're holding so much fertility. You're holding so many spirits, so many memories, so many nightmares. Okay. And yeah, it's like, it is, it's like you're an encyclopedia of just chaotic information. And at some point, you got to release the demons, all that superfluous information, and release the demons to make the connections. And then those who are blood type A and B, could you release the demons of whatever and turn into blood type O? I couldn't prove it to you. I couldn't say if that's for sure. I think there has been circumstances that somebody changed blood types because of blood transfusion or a major infection. But it was temporary because you know how people are. They are going to cure their disease. So, of course, it's temporary out there. There's no proof that we know of that someone who's blood type A and B can finally be pregnant with so much of the antibodies, both A and B, and turn into a blood type O, pregnant O, right? And hold on to that infection of memories and nightmares and memories and nightmares. And so they say that if you're born with a certain blood type, you stay that way. But of course, in the world of disposability, that's their purview until somebody can prove differently. Well, I haven't tested my blood type. I mean, I was O positive. I might still be O positive as far as the RH factor. But I think the negative, which I don't know if my husband's O negative. I don't know. I made a speculation because I was getting triggered so much whenever he come home. I get all these hives because he has a lot of energy. Maybe it's the testosterone that triggered all the hives. Okay, that I had, but not anymore. I don't get any hives anymore. But so I can't make that speculation around my husband or if he's an O negative. But we still are balancing each other out because of the testosterone and estrogen. But I'm wondering if the O negative is the ultimate blood type as far as balancing out all the positives. Okay. And so, because the O positive is like being pregnant several times over, and you really have to release the demons every day and the damage and whatever else. And even releasing the demons, I mean, that's obvious, but it's also fixing the damage within the body. But anyways, yeah, so blood type is the fertility of the offspring. What kind of fertility offspring and how that is localized, how that is programmed. So with Steve Jobs, I thought he was O negative, but actually he's O positive, I think, from what I've researched. But he's also very skinny, and he had disease. I think it was an MS or something, I forget. But he's also really a brutal dictator. And so, but that's all programming too. Because there's probably people who are O positive, they're just gentle and kind people, and maybe they're big and and they're jolly or something, assuming they're not they didn't have anybody brutalize them or bully them. Then they might be just jolly, nice people, and so you can have that out there. But then when you have O positive plus then an aggressive programming, holy shit, you don't know what the hell you're getting. So anyway, so I could even correct myself. So when I'm talking about stuff, I hear myself. And I listen to my videos every single fucking day. And sometimes I'll pull out things that I said in the video because it resonates with me, that needs to have its own little platform, like its own little post. So that's why you'll see me sometimes when I'm listening to my videos, I'll post stuff because I like what I had to say and I want to post it and even expand on it a bit more. So what I do is not really for all of you. I mean, you guys are getting the benefit because it is a quid pro quo. You give me your energy, I give you mine, and everybody's happy, right? I guess, or unhappy. But the reason why I go on Facebook Live every day is so I can hear myself. I could teach myself and correct myself, and then also spur on more learning, more things to expand on, more things to research, more connections we made. And that's the ultimate way of learning, is when you're writing, when you're speaking, when you're hearing, When you're listening, same thing, hearing. When you're drawing, when I'm watching, I'm watching another binge Netflix series called Lost, and even that, I'm like, oh God, this is so opportune. Because yeah, all these people that were lost on this island over there in Hawaii, actually, they have their own backstory and things that we've done, that we've gone through, like the Iraq War, like people's backgrounds with their fathers and bullies. And I'm just really newly into this series. So I'm probably in the first season, just getting, through the thick of stuff. And so that also jogs types of information. Okay. And so and I'm listening, then I keep my brain going. How? Oh, because I'm listening to YouTube videos. I'm listening to music. I'm making Facebook Reels. And so you saw the last couple of Facebook Reels where I'm just like, oh gosh, a new energy. The past is knocking on the door. And when the past does knock on the door, when you finally can, when you're not getting triggered by the past and you actually know your boundaries, you can entertain certain aspects of the past, but you won't go too far into other people's situations. Because I'll tell you, when you've gone through some shit, and even though it was correct, it's still like, fuck, the people that taught you, that were amazing, that taught you, they still have their own shit to deal with. But through their experiences in life, and they were trained in whatever way, they imparted upon a lot of knowledge that I will definitely take advantage of, but not assume I will ever get validation from anyone in my past, ever. I don't even expect it. I don't want it. I'm not even looking for it, so I don't even want to go there. So that's the thing about parents, is the keeping them around is the need of them for validation. And when you haven't figured out how to validate yourself and achieved your own achievements, whatever they are, then you're always going to be like, I'm going to speak for everybody. We're always going to be looking for somebody in our world to validate us in our past. So that way we're like, okay, we did something right. We finally got approval from our peers and our parents and our relatives and the friends of the past. And I'm going to tell you, that's probably never going to fucking happen. And if it does happen, what's the point? What's the point of getting validated? What's the point? Because the things that used to be like, coveted and acceptable and credible are not so much anymore now. Okay, so before, information was held under lock and key and you had to pay for it. And people use that information as a way to leverage others and make them feel powerful and make themselves feel like they have knowledge and know, and you can't possibly ever get to their level because you don't have the knowledge they have, you don't have the degrees they have, you don't have the money they have. And so that was used as a way to fuck with people, keep people down. And so now, with so much knowledge running freely everywhere, what was credible and so coveted and so prestigious back then, now it's like, okay, you can go to your college, okay, great, but I've learned how to teach myself stuff based upon what my intentions are to prove my theories and to explain what salt does. And so I don't have to learn, the hardest formula in physics just to learn it. No, I find the formulas in physics and find the concepts in physics and chemistry and biochemistry and math and English to then prop up my own thesis of sorts of like immortality, why salt was so interesting back in 2016, 17, 18, because it gave a curative effect and because it had a chaotic effect. People releasing demons and they were getting relief. And not everybody had the same experience at the same time. So that was why there was so much chaos. I fucking caused the world so much chaos. To the point where the FBI, the CIA, Interpol, all these people who were like, oh my God, Jillian's fucking killing the world. No, I just woke up your goddamn demons that you put to sleep for many, many years or carved them out. And so what I did was I caused a type of chaos, like an evolution that was going to happen anyways. Now that we look back, hindsight's 2020, 8 years ago, we didn't know 8 years later we're going to be in this fucking chaos that we're in. But that's what I preempted back then, and people survived it. I mean, they might have cured it for a minute, but now you can't be cured in this environment. There's no fucking way. Yesterday, my arm was sore, and it was raining yesterday afternoon. It was raining. It feels like we're in some kind of like tropical type of climate here in Ohio during this. I mean, I know Ohio has its hot days and climate days and whatever, but when I go outside, it smells like I'm in some kind of like rainforest. And so I did take a nap yesterday, and I did have pain in my shoulder, my arm. I was like, fuck. I was like, geez. But, and that's fine. And I didn't even poop yesterday, really. I pooped this morning, like, yes. But yesterday was like, oh my God, I was just dealing with some stuff and pressure on my arm. And so I just took a nap and just escaped it for a minute. But today I feel great. I mean, and that's the thing is this, during this whole crazy climate change, man, you're going to be feeling some stuff coming to surface and all that stuff. So anyways, yeah, God, there's like so much going through my head. And so that's why I do what I do as far as talking, so I can learn stuff, so I can impart stuff, so I can understand how to apply all the concepts that I studied, the basics, what a cell is, what a protein is, what parts of speech are, why we have, integers, plus and minus, what statistics are, what all the allegory and the religions and the Bible, and understanding the Old Testament, the New Testament, and then hearing that China's going to rewrite the Bible. That's what I read on or heard somewhere on a YouTube video. And so I do this to teach myself. This is the fucking Jillian University. And you don't, and there's no degree, and there's no, anything that you just learn it for yourself, and you can go Google everything, I learned about the salt. Ionic and covalent. Ionic, entropy, covalent, negentropy. It's all this information that's all connected, but it's scattered in different contexts. And then over time, when you take on this information, learning the basics, then you can make the connections. Oh, salt can be both curative and it can be chaotic relative to your situation. Electron for electron. The octet rule. Violating the octet rule. How is that even related to chemistry? And the numbers on chemistry and chemical reactions. And then also societal constructs and family constructs and friend constructs. And family constructs. And so families are the lessons that we never learned. Children are the lessons we never learned. Okay? And then I'm thinking about the octet rule. I'm thinking about electron for electron. I'm thinking about cancer, disease, and chronic illness. I'm thinking about, oh God, people have issues with the air, food, and water. And they think everyone's after them. So maybe it's time to be the adult and learn the lessons. Some of these lessons are brutally painful. Oh, let me tell you. I would never thought I would ever revisit what I dealt with almost basically 20 years ago. Like, it's been exactly 20 years ago that I'm revisiting a physiological past, a psychological past that I'm like, fuck. And it wasn't even nothing to do with my parents. My parents were like way back when. No, this is something that I put myself into because of whatever. Because I had an expectation that wasn't met, and then I dealt with it really badly. But hey, that's the nature of learning when you're a kid and even 30 years old, is that you learn the brutal, painful lessons, and if you survive them, you'll be that much more prepared for whatever is coming down the pipeline. Because those physical memories, they will stay with you forever. And then you're like, oh, I will never get in that situation again. Oh my gosh. That's why you feel sorry for these kids out there that are forced into soccer or forced into all these different sports. And then they get hit and punched and pummeled, and they already are deficient. And then when the climate changes and they have to feel those things again, they'll have disease early on, because the body's trying to come back from all of that damage from being hit and punched in the ring or in the field, or other issues like getting the memories from all the different therapies. That's why I said vaccines are memories, and they are encapsulated in a shell. What is that? The laws of biology. The laws of biology is it follows the laws of entropy. It's all living things or biological things are encased in a membrane encased shell. And what's the other? They all come from a point of evolution. That's the laws of biology. Okay, so those are memories. So vaccines are memories, purified memories, and also nightmares to some. So what's a nightmare for someone could be a memory or a dream for somebody else, but it's all memories. And some are deadly and some are not. And you can't be the one to know if it's deadly or not. But if you're looking at what's going on with climate change and with all these different geological events, plus then, the myocarditis and the uptick in cancers, a lot of people's memories are coming to surface. Some people who haven't even been therapized, they had no vaccines and they're feeling stuff. They can blame it on their friends and family, but no, your friends and family are the triggers. Not so much that you're breathing in their ectoplasm or their microbes. But like my husband, he'll just come into the house. He's an energy source, an aggressive testosterone energy source. And he triggered me into hives many times. And I'll be like, oh my God, my husband's freaking killing me. Or I'll walk into a Walmart or walk into any high energy area and wake up the demons, because already we're in climate change. I already have damage within. I already have all the memories and nightmares. Freddy Krueger and the dreamscapes, like some of the reels that I posted. And I gotta face those memories and release the demons. Okay? And so right now, since you can't tell this to people and to the general population who are pretty much so tunneled, they can't even see outside of their fucking tunnel vision, you can't tell them this is so spiritual. This is all about memories. It's all, oh my God. I mean, they say they know it's spiritual, but not really, because they're going to blame it on the air, food, and water. You already, just look at your Facebook. People have issues with the air, food, and water. They say everything is poison. No, they're just bringing up the memories that you hold, that you've inherited, that you've undergone because of your lifestyle, drinking, drugs, sex, going, playing soccer, doing the Olympics, boxing matches. Maybe somebody did something to you, assaulted you. Maybe, all the prescription drugs, all the herbal remedies, all the swinging, because people are all crazy sexual over there in San Francisco or something, or everywhere else. I mean, so you have to deal with those memories. You got to be the one to pay the fucking piper. It's just everyone around you, air, food, and water is going to trigger it, and then plus the climate change. And everything else changes. The political landscape is changing. The economical landscape is changing. Even your geological landscape is changing. And you can speculate it's all contrived. Everything's contrived. Everything has an intention. Everything has an outcome. All right? So maybe it's time to be the adult and learn the lessons. Some of these lessons are brutally painful, whether it's a disaster behold or a child out of control dealing with their own suffering, disaster, or disease. We hold the same kind of thing, I think. Taking on somebody else's suffering is ignoring your own, and you're dying for somebody else. So how many guys out there dating chicks with children? You're taking on somebody else's suffering. You're taking on somebody else's situation. That's suffering. If I was a single guy and I was pretty capable, I'd find a way to squirrel away some money so that way you can take some time off down the road, if you can, and release those demons and take on substance and find a way not to take on more suffering, more distress. But you know how people are. They think that's the key to happiness, is always being connected to somebody. And even better, they have kids. Oh, jeez. You don't want to take on somebody else's baggage. You really don't. But hey, that's not for me to say to somebody else. I'll say it publicly, but you don't want to take on somebody else's baggage. It's a lot. I mean, if you do, great. I understand. Even single mamas need to have love too. But I'll tell you, she has her own shit to deal with. Does she need to be taking on somebody else? Plus and her kids. But she needs someone to unload on. It's up to you. So taking on somebody else's suffering is ignoring your own, and you're dying for somebody else. Be careful who it is you entertain and what kind of suffering you're willing to endure, because you can't face your own. And that's the thing with people. They take on other people's suffering. Friends and family and boyfriends and girlfriends and whatever, because they can't face their own. And you can't make them face it, Jasper, Canada is under fire, literally. And so, those in the know are fleeing to their bunkers or wherever they were told it was safe. Okay, they've been doing that for the last couple years. The system knew. The conspiracy world knows. Those who have money, those who kind of understand what's going on, they can read between the lines and realize, oh shit, they know. A lot of changes have been made the last few years. Doesn't mean that their bunkers, wherever they landed, is going to be the safest place. It's just probably safer than being somewhere like, If you're elderly, you wouldn't want to be in New York City. You don't want to be in LA. You don't want to be in some inner city if you're elderly. You want to get the fuck out and go somewhere, not even Florida. You go somewhere totally different. Okay? Because Florida is under fire. What do you mean? Hurricanes. I wouldn't want to be in Florida right now. Anyone that's in Florida right now, I'd find a way to get the hell out. But you know how it is. People are like, it's not going to happen to me, and I can't afford to move. And okay. But retirees are not going to Florida. And if they are, then they're completely like not aware of anything. The days of retiring to Florida are over. That was 50 years ago, 30 years ago. But now you're seeing the condos. The condominiums, people are trying to get out because there's something to do with that real estate where you have to go. If you're not up to certain code with these condos, and it's a lot of money to be up to code. And so if people are not up to code with these condos, then they're getting dinged or something's happening. I don't remember. I was listening to something, I fell asleep. But even the condos are under. So Google that or YouTube that about condos in Florida. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be in Florida. But now that goes. And so, yep, those who know are fleeing to their bunkers or wherever they were told it was safe. No one knows except for those who know, so just survive wherever you are. The architects know what's going on. And it's not just one little event. There are so many events. So that's why I posted those typhoons and floods and fires and all that. The architects know what's going on. It's not just one little event. There are so many events. Fires here, earthquakes here. I say here because you'll say here and you'll be like, oh yeah. Okay. Volcanoes here, hurricanes here, storms here, drought here, accidents here. Okay. A lot of I've seen so many accidents in my town. So many accidents. People are dying suddenly. They're having events. They lose control of the wheel and they kill somebody, or they drive into a building, or they drive off the road. You're like, what the hell? Yeah. Oh yeah. It's bad. I don't post too many die suddenlies because it's too many to count. But the agenda hasn't stopped. What do you mean the agenda? Well, climate change. Climate change bringing up all those memories and nightmares and dreams. So if you're in disbelief of where I'm coming from, then be thankful you don't know enough people to see what's going on. Hey, there's something to be said to basically have a homogenized Facebook where you're like, oh, they had cancer. Well, it was in their genetic line. Well, it was, yes. But when you're ending up alone in your world because everyone around you died, I mean, maybe you might be like, well, something's going on here. Some people are just like, they won't look at whatever's going on. And so people's bunkers are all relative to what they think would be the safest place for them relative to their situation. I was taught in my world, never, ever, ever get too comfortable with your position and where you are in the world. And so I was looking at my Social Security statement of all the money that I made. Yeah, it was not a lot. I think the highest amount, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to tell you, you know how much money, the highest amount of money I've made in California, I don't know how the fuck I survived. $26,000. That was my highest year of earnings. $26,000 in California, in San Francisco, no less. $26,000. How the heck does anyone survive, even single, on 20? Well, I was pretty resourceful. There was a lot of moving, a lot of, roommate situations, boyfriend situations, student loan situations. So 26,000, I was like, damn. I mean, I made my 40 credits for Social Security, but at this point, I can live on almost nothing. My husband has made more in the world that we've been together than I've made my whole freaking life. That's what I'm saying. Men are so capable because they're so consistent. Someone like me who had PMDD, oh my God, that thing controlled me. I was so mad at the world because I couldn't stay consistent because that demon kept rearing its ugly head. And there was no amount of staying away from food or drugs that would relieve that demon. There was none. And it was a formidable demon. And so $26,000 making, that was the highest amount than anything I would have made, was me taking care of myself. So if I were to get on the drugs and get everything carved out and be that successful person, I would have sacrificed my life. But the fact I made hardly anything in money meant that I was at home taking care of myself more than I was out there performing for others. And so that was a major lesson when I was looking at that. I'm like, wow. So so whatever money I didn't make, here you go. This is the money I didn't make. Because I wasn't out there performing for someone or being greedy or whatever. I was at home. I wasn't playing the birthday party game. I wasn't out there, staying in one job forever and dying for my boss for a company that doesn't give a shit about you. No, I was staying home and I was staying safe eating spaghetti. And going like, fuck, this sucks. Fuck, this sucks. Enduring all the comments and the looks and all the freaking, judgments. But there, eventually I guess I would get rewarded for that, right? So I was taught in my world, never, ever, ever get too comfortable with your position and where you are in the world. All of us are under fire. Nobody is immune to this new world we are entering into called chaos. And you're not immune to chaos. And to actually experience being cured and also less pain fluctuating with the environment, you have to go through the fire. And it's brutal. Because those memories in your body, mind, and spirit can be a dream or a nightmare on Elm Street. So appropriate that just the other day I was talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, and then programmed bodies in deficit with a lot of brutality in the background. You're developing the dreams, right? The illusions, the angels, the demons in your children. And so those are lessons not learned. That's why adults, and if you have adult children who are relatively healthy, relatively stable, relatively full of substance, they have a chance to convert that energy for good and not for evil. But as soon as they get with the girl, as soon as they get with a family that's all about money and power and prestige, they will dilute their resources. As soon as you have children, as soon as you give children, as soon as you have a family, you're done. Now you either have to take care of this family or face the shame of giving them up. And some people can't face that shame. I mean, that was in one of the Lost episodes, that girl that was pregnant. The girl that was pregnant, she had to face whether or not, in her old lifetime, before she's on that island, to give up her baby for adoption. And people are like, oh my God, you can't do that. You can't give up the baby to a foster home that may or may not take care of them correctly. They were telling you stuff, even in that series Lost. That's why I'm saying, don't ever cancel Netflix because you're so afraid of the Democrats. Gee, just like shooting yourself in the foot. But people are out there. They're so reactive. They're like, oh my God. Yeah, remember Cuties? Everyone was all upset about Cuties. And they're all like, I'm going to cancel my Netflix series on Cuties. Because Cuties was a video, girls doing stuff, young girls doing stuff sexual. I'm like, jeez. And so they canceled their Netflix. I guess they took it back. They went back on Netflix. And now, oh gosh, I got to cancel my Netflix because they donated $7 million to the Democrats. Okay, whatever. And so, yeah, vaccines equals memories trapped in microbes. One person's dream is another person's nightmare on Elm Street. And so, yes, the Daigle Report. Remember the Daigle Report, conspiracy people? And their projections. So someone said in a Diet Suddenly group, I live in New Brunswick, Canada. The amount of fatal car and ATV accidents that have occurred so far just in the month of July is staggering, getting close to the 4-year mark now. Can't imagine what next year will be like. Oh yeah, it's already bad. Oh my gosh. And so the Daigle Report said that the population in 2017 is 327 million, and there's 7.4 billion people. And then the forecast of 2025 is population for America is 100 million, and then 6.9 billion in the world. All right. Yeah, well, believe it or not. Say it's a conspiracy. And so someone said Daigle is still a highly respected military intelligence website. They used to put out this very weird forecast for population of every country, and always for the year 2025. This person was saying this. I started seeing these forecasts on their website around 2009. Oh, wow. It was always showed incredibly huge declines in population for every country. I'd always think this is so bizarre. How could they even speculate on something so unbelievable? And as soon as the Safe and Effective was rolled out, I knew. Fertility. fertility. That's the blood types. That's the antibodies. Those are the monoclonal antibodies people are getting infused with. Those are, yeah. Some people can handle the memories and the nightmares and the dreams. Others can't. And if you're already too far gone, if you're already elderly, and you can't handle even being around people where you have to take a therapy, it won't matter what you do. Climate change can kick your ass. It's already kicking people's asses right now. So it won't matter what you do if you cannot handle the air, food, and water and the environment. Where you have to take a pill, a powder, a supplement, a detox. Where you're having issues with air, food, and water, you're pointing at the skies and pointing at the GMO and pointing at your friends and family. It was you. Remember, I was down that road too. Every single time I went out in public, I would get a trigger. Every single time. To the point where it was so aggressive, I thought, again, Walmart was killing me. Okay? No, it was bringing up things that are already, that the trauma. And some of that trauma is so quick. Like I'm saying, it caused me blindness for a minute. It caused my eyes to change. Okay, now I probably can go to that DMV and read every single one of those letters. Because I can read now the little writing on Netflix I couldn't read before. It was all like double. Everything was double. Reading those letters. Now I can read everything. I mean, even going from like right here, I can read some of the letters that maybe would have been harder to read. All right, so the trauma from the past, where it's, an assault to, an injury in sports to child abuse and all of that comes out in your biology today. And it manifests in, it could be obesity, it could be drug use, it could be cancer, disease, chronic illness, all those memories. That's what disease is. It's good memories and bad memories. And then you get injected with those memories. Okay? And then dreams and nightmares. And then you have to deal with them. And some of them make you stronger, some of them make you weaker. There's no way to know how these memories and how these dreams and nightmares are going to affect you. And so the whole J world is about purging out the demons, the nightmares on Elm Street, and keeping all the dreams, keeping those pretty dreams of court jesters on white horses. How to know about court jester? We used to have a dog, a Tibetan Terrier, when we were growing up. And my mother called him Court named Jester because he was our little comical, cute little freaking Tibetan Terrier. And that's where I learned how, walk the dog 3 times a day or 15 minutes a day. Something like that every time. And so we would go out. So it'd be like 3 times a day, twice a day, something like that. We'd walk the dog, pick up, poop and whatever. But yeah, so court jester. And that, so a lot of my words and visions that I would develop these AIs from what my mother taught me. Okay. She was very well versed, very high vocabulary. A large vocabulary. Brutal, yes, in the way she does this, because she wanted us to know that the world is not a friendly place. And she won't be friendly either. And if I ever need her, then she'll be brutal. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to need my mother. She's not my friend. She's my mother. If I need my mother, she will be brutal. She will be combative. She will be whatever. So I don't want to need my mother. I don't need validation. I'm pretty much validated. Okay? I wish her Godspeed. I wish my dad got my dad's being taken care of by somebody in my family, and that's so fucking awesome. And so they're in the best place they can be. And I'm thankful for that. I didn't know where they were. I finally figured out where they were. It was a person from the past that came back, and they actually found me, and I responded, talked to them for a minute. And if all the conditions are right in the future, when the past has finally gone away, maybe we can have a conversation about everything. But right now, it's just not appropriate. And so I'm just glad to know where people stand, where people are. But there's nothing I can do to help out. There's nothing to come back to. You got to keep moving forward. Moving forward. Acknowledge the past, yes, but keep moving forward. Because if you go back to the past, man, people will do what they do. They'll treat you how they viewed you 20 years ago. You're not the same person. Okay? And so that's the thing, is you have to know that you have so much growth. You don't want to go back to the past, really. It's nice to acknowledge it, but you don't want to entertain it so much where you get thrown back there. You don't want to be thrown back to 1860. You don't want to be thrown back to the 1700s. You don't want to be thrown back to even back 6,000 years ago. You got to keep moving forward, but still acknowledge the past and be thankful for it, but keep moving forward. And so those were the Facebook Reels of showing you just some of the exotic things that I was exposed to, like the art galleries and going to the museums and going to the different fairs. We went to the World's Fair. We went to all the different, arts and crafts fairs, movies, books, and paintings and art. I mean, one of the influences of the exotic art of the 1930s, was it Arte and what was Arte? What was the name of that type of artistic? Arte. It starts with an A. I can't even think. There's all these names. 20th century. Yeah. Well, anyways, it was back in the 1930s days. Art Deco, that's what it's called. Art Deco. And so there's genres of art, like Art Deco, that I really, really like. And some of the music of the 1930s. And so the exposure to the art from way back when then gave the culture something else to draw from. So that's what I'm saying. Those of you who have kids, they need to see so much of the culture, not just, your little homogenized world of whatever, but, 1930s art, Art Deco, to all the other types of architecture and, and poetry and literature and paintings like Picasso and, Da Vinci, there is something to be said for actually looking for what types of genres of art and reading the stories behind the people who are doing this art. Okay? Expanding your brain to understand the world that you live in. And so that gives you a more well-rounded view of the world, and then you can evolve that. But that takes, that was my background, so I couldn't replicate my background on somebody else. But somebody can go on the internet and look up all these different artists from the past and the people behind them. Reading Steinbeck and understanding the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl and all the different photographers. And even if you're taking a class in art literature or poetry, there's so much you can learn besides, people look up. They look up stupid videos of people doing stupid shit to each other. Right? Comedy. It's fun to make fun of people. I understand that. That's the whole comedy, is making fun of cultures, making fun of people, making fun of whatever. Okay, but there's another side to the world that maybe the people could delve into besides the comedy and the stupid slapstick movies. Yeah, there's a whole cultural side, architectural side, literary side, and learning words, new words, learning physics and chemistry, learning math, and there's so much to do and learn. But again, you have to have the capacity to do that. And that starts with expanding your potential, which is eating the foods. These poor kids who are gluten-free, meat-free, milk-free, they're not going to get enough of the memories to hold on to concepts like literature. Fuck no. Their parents will keep them so damn sheltered and so tunneled that then when they grow up, they're so intolerant. They can't handle any kind of diversity. They're always in resistance to something. Don't look at your fucking Facebook. Everybody's in resistance, lived a tunneled life. Okay? And so, Lost Netflix series, The Struggle is Nature's Way to Survive. Yeah. There's some pretty interesting people in that Lost. A family who watches you struggle but doesn't help you is the best family you want. Because they know if they were gone, you'd have to figure out how to survive or end up in the wrong hands. That's why these kids or these parents marry off their girls, and she'll have to survive that family. Because they can't, they don't have what it takes to watch her make mistakes. And so if she makes mistakes in that family, then you hope she survives her mistakes. But when we're dealing with elderly people, that's a whole different story. So then, knowing what my parents, they're elderly and they have people taking care of them, I have to then make that caveat, that allowance there. Because I'm glad, before I even knew where they were, I'm just thinking they're dead. And they're not. They're very much alive. And so I'm glad they're being taken care of. I'm glad people are around them and all that. So thank you for taking care of my parents. Who people out there, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Because no matter what my feelings about whatever, I still care about them. But there's no relationship, really. There's none. You can't go back to... You acknowledge and thank them for whatever, because they're not your friends. They were your parents. They did their job. Move on. All right? But when we're dealing with elderly people, that's a whole different story. But people my age and younger and a little bit older, but not too old, it's the struggle that makes the person. Okay? But if you're elderly and you're struggling, well, you're not being made. You're not going to go through the hell of building yourself back up again, developing pressure. Because again, when you're gelatinous, you lost infrastructure. And when you're so skinny and so petrified and hard, yeah, you're not going to be able to struggle, really. You got to find a way to escape the misery. So I get it. All right. There's that. Yeah. And I said, yeah, when you stop needing your parents, you stop needing the validation. That's growth and development like I never even thought of. People who are close to their parents are dying literally for their validation. I mean, yes, elderly people need to have people look after them. And so I will take back what I said about the nurses out there taking care of the elderly. Yes, I know they need you. And thank you for being the one to sacrifice your life for them. Even though you can't save them, you're just making their exit as easy as possible. And if you have to be there every single day and take on the microbes and release the demons and have to have your lifestyle in order to deal with that, okay. I mean, I can't do it. And I appreciate those that can. Okay? Because you're taking care of my parents. And so that's when I finally could put myself in the shoes of those who are nurses taking care of the elderly in these nursing homes. And so I said, thank you for taking care of our dad. And so this is also why you don't revisit some of the past, because many people are declining aggressively and you can walk right into something you can't get out of. Okay, so I've seen people deal with their parents and they're like dementia and Alzheimer's, and they're nice one day, but then they're so mean to their daughters and sons the next day. And you as a daughter and son having to deal with your parent declining and being so mean to you because they can't help it. I couldn't do it. I fucking can't do it. I couldn't do it. I mean, I don't have to do it. But that's the thing, is that there are people out there that are qualified to deal with that. And sometimes you have to walk away if you don't have, yeah. Some people, they can't walk away from their parents who are declining so aggressively. And And so I've dealt with enough bullshit in my life. I'm not going back to anything that would take me down so small and so little that I would wonder why the fuck I revisit something I shouldn't have. Okay? And so I'm grateful that my parents have their retirement. I'm grateful that they figure out how to survive. And I'm grateful for the people around them that are looking after them, checking on them. Because I'm far away from everybody for a reason. I'm far away from people in California, from everybody. I'm in my own little homogenized world that I kind of venture out every so often. But I've had enough of drama. And so, yeah, I've dealt with enough bullshit in my life. I'm not going back to anything that would take me down so small and so little that I would wonder why the fuck would I revisit something I shouldn't have. Protect yourself. Sometimes the past is the past and you leave it there. And I will say people don't change. And if they do, what are they changing into? And what do they need from you? And so, yes, I received a visit from the past. That that's as far as I'm going. That person is as far as I'm going. And I'm not going beyond that. And I like her. She's a good lady. The person that's taking care of my dad, she's a good fucking lady. She's an upstanding lady. And she has a background of religion and all of that. But she's a good lady. She's pure of heart. She's had her own issues in the world. And she's come out of it okay. And she's just a good lady. So, you know, I like her and I respect her. That's the kind of person I respect. And so thank you for taking care of our dad. Thank you. And when I talked to her, I said, thank you for being the one to check. Thank you for hanging out with him. Thank you because I can't. And so I'm glad everybody is safe. That's what makes me happy, is everybody is safe and well taken care of. And that's all that matters. Okay? I mean, if I was forced, if I had to take, but they wouldn't want to be under them. All right. And so the artificial intelligence prompt for that AI picture of that little girl looking back at the kingdom is, when history beckons, how far do you take it? And what do they want from you? And I think the person wanted to let me know what was going on. Because I think my parents knew. I didn't know where the hell they were. But I think that they need me to know what was going on with them. That I can't change their circumstances. But it's good to know that they're doing okay. But that's as far as I'm going. That's as far as I'm going. I've done enough work to develop, I don't say a fantasy world, but I know that everything that I grew up with is for a good reason. And I ended up this way for a reason. Okay? And so, yeah. All right, so this whole climate change, either you turn gelatinous or you get petrified. People, the stiff person syndrome that Celine Dion went through. And then somebody else in the Gen X group was saying, they didn't tell us that rigor mortis was going to happen when we were alive. I'm like, oh yeah, I was stiff a couple years ago. I could barely move. I could barely turn my neck. I could barely even, my arm, everything was stiff. And so that's kind of like a petrification. And then some people they become gelatinous. Why? Because they lose infrastructure. Not enough salt, not enough resistance in the body, not enough food that's able to go where it needs to go. So it's just kind of like floating with no organizations, like chaos. And so that's why you get all the cellulite and and so look, I don't have any cellulite. All right. These are my arms. I'm 50 years old and I went through, a lot of immune system activation. So these are my arms. But some people, when they've gone through gaining weight and losing weight and they're becoming, losing form, losing structure, you see then all the cellulite, you see the dimples, a lot of them, right? They're losing form. They're losing, the collagen is all weird. And so then they become gelatinous. And you don't want to ever become gelatinous, but sometimes it happens because people are losing their infrastructure. But that's what this high heat and climate change does. It causes petrification, petrified minerals, blood clots, inability to let things move throughout the body. That's why milk is so important. That's why salt and sugar and meat and cheese and eggs and all of that developing an infrastructure, or else you become petrified or gelatinous. And elderly slim women might end up gelatinous. And yeah, you have to release demons. Skinny women become petrified, and bigger women become gelatinous, lacking form. That's what Medusa was. She turned everyone into stone. And then the witches melted into a puddle of goo. That was the evil witches in the fairy tales, the evil stepmother, the evil witches, petrification, the process by which organic matter exposed to minerals over a long period of time is turned into a stony substance. So then you think about gallstones and bladder stones and all that. People trying to pass those, and it's freaking painful. Yeah, because you didn't release the demons. You didn't bring in enough meat and milk and cheese. You maybe had too many, maybe you're all plant-based and taking all your minerals. So you're highly mineralized, and now you have gallstones and bladder stones, kidney stones. All right. And so a state of extreme fear too, making someone unable to move. Those are like the dream paralysis, right? Because of those nightmares. That's what these kids get, these crazy nightmares. And so the microbes, the nightmares on Elm Street, microbes causing paralysis. I've had that too. So here's the thing with the fertility and the whole, compatible blood types, compatibility. See, even in the blood transfusion world, if you bring in incompatible blood types, you develop antibodies, right? Those antibodies are offspring. Those offspring can turn into blood clots and completely shut down the immune system. And so then if that were to happen, or you take like what I did, I took an antibiotic that I was allergic to that gave me these little red dots everywhere. Yeah, they had to give me saline to break up all of that infection from the allergic reaction to that sulfa that I probably was given to me back when I had pneumonia. That's probably what I suspect that demon in my body back in July 2022 was the mycoplasma of the pneumonia that I dealt with when I was a baby coming here to America. So there was that trauma, and then the trauma of my shoulder this last time. So yeah, luckily those were the only two traumas I could think of. So now you know why you can't mix conflicting blood types during blood transfusions. The antibodies or offspring would cause clots and immune system shutdown to the recipient, also known as too much fertility, which is why salting out or purification or using the saline bag IV fluid drips are used on people dealing with infection or dehydration from violently shitting or throwing up. And not just using Jilly juice as a catalyst, but even then. See, people are like, oh, Jillian is dehydrating everybody. Well, they're drinking water, so that wasn't really correct. And they were getting their electrolytes. But you also can become cured and then not hungry and be constipated. So that's the downside of the Jilly juice, is that you would become constipated. But you wouldn't be hungry. You might get some relief. You might release the dark cloud that's over your head, but you couldn't be cured. You still had to have movement. Okay? And so, yeah, you must shit, poop, pee, sweat, have ways to release the offspring, diarrhea, and then drink water, electrolytes, etc. But call your doctor to ask for permission to violently shit your brains out. And people were like, oh, you're losing your intestine. Those were all the fear mongers back then. I can't give you permission to shit. You got to ask your doctor for permission to shit more than your usual. You must ask your doctor if you're allowed to have nosebleeds when you have upper immune system activation. You must ask your doctor for everything. Remember, I had a lot of nosebleeds as a kid where they had to cauterize my nose because I was dealing with so much of trying to assimilate to the food and to the air and to the water, to everything. And so if you can't cough, sneeze, and blow your nose, then you must ask your doctor to vacuum out your orifices. That's why the medical holistic energy healing world has reduced all of you down to making your doctors basically snake out all of your drains. That's pretty invasive. But the medical holistic system are basically human plumbers. And sometimes they can't even get to the blockages because they don't have enough because you don't have enough conditioning and infrastructure to push things through. So you get perforations. That's what happens when when your poop is being petrified inside your body and then your body's trying to pass it. And then your blood vessels are so weak and porous that that poop perforates it, then yeah. So it's not just perforations, blood clots, and stones. That's another, and not just perforation, blood clots and stones. That's another analogy. Doctors are human plumbers. Then you get those who give you those enemas that only last so long. Those are the half plumbers out there in the holistic world irrigating your butthole. That's what your kids have to look forward to in the future. And those of you who had to pass stones and clots in the past, it's painful, isn't it? But you set yourself up for that because you're afraid of meat, milk, you're afraid of milk and water. Milk is like helping your body develop mucus to release. And you're like, oh God, milk is so bad. But these poor people who are basically petrified, over mineralized, and they're doing all these mineral detoxes that don't work. And so, oh joy, but that's what the high heat and climate change does. It causes petrification, petrified minerals, blood clots, inability to let things move throughout the body. They can't, for the damn of them, for the life of them, feel any kind of pain of movement. So they're like just sitting in suspension. That's what gelatinous is suspension. But they can't feel the resistance. So there's bowel irrigation. And so then there's this Vera Wang. Gosh, crap keeper. I might have lost a lot of hair the last 3 years, but it grew back in a more appropriate thickness. And I do not have the white gray roots at all. I still have more black than gray and white. So you see, look, I have like one little gray here, letting me know that I went through a hay flick limit. But there you go. This is my hair. I don't color my hair. Yeah, you see some of the gray here, but it's not, you see some people's hair, right? It's all white and gray. Like they have gone gray and white so early. Why? Because they are burning through their lifeline so freaking fast They're out there with people getting all their fertility, using up lifelines. And so less gray white means I survived surpassing my first hay flick limit. More gray white hair means you're using up your lifelines. And so I see people even in the J juice world. They didn't have so much white hair back when we knew them. And then during the last 3 years, they have stressed themselves to the point where they're going gray and white very quickly. And they're my age. And so I do not actively color my hair. I just eat the food in the food supply and I release the demons. So that way my body is not using up lifelines and I can transition to the next lifeline. And it took a lot of pain and suffering to hold the line. More abundant women who don't have gray hair are still holding the line, but you don't want to suffocate your organs. However, the more weight you lose, the more substance you lose that you can't convert to jump to the next lifeline, the more aged you become. Okay? So losing weight extremely quickly can age you. Gaining so much weight very quickly can age you. And so when you become extremely skinny, you will age faster. I wouldn't let people like these Asian women in the fashion industry like Vera Wang, who are so skinny, fool you into thinking that's how you want to end up. That's like a praying mantis living on the electrical grid. Take away the energy, they don't survive. They have to be in an extremely stable environment that doesn't have too much fluctuation, or the piezoelectric forces of squeezing would destroy them. So that's basically piezoelectricity, is squeezing. Okay? Expansion, contraction. Contraction, expansion. Contraction, expansion. And so, yeah, she looks like a crypt keeper. I'm sorry, I'm going to be fucking honest. And so we are the bastards of 10,000 maniacs, regardless of who our baby daddy is, regardless if we are married, single, or gay, or straight. The antibodies within your blood types, and then all the public health therapies, and then your interaction with people and all of your sexual conquests basically make up what your children are today. Can you turn those maniacs into somebody stable and reliable? Your surface marker antigen interacts with other surface marker antigen, and you develop antibodies called kids, people, and viruses, and cultures. So the antibodies become then kids, people, viruses, and cultures. All right? And so surface marker antigen A, surface marker antigen B, then you have your A antibodies and B antibodies, but some, so relative to your blood type is relative to what kind of antibodies you hold and what you don't, so then it's just energy being used, and they're not being, and so that was what I said to the correction yesterday. It's those who have the antibodies for whatever blood type, that's what's giving you that tunnel vision. When you have more of a diverse antibody compilation of information, then you're able to kind of jockey back and forth. But when you only have one antibody, would you call it protection? I don't even know what that means, protection. Then, yeah, that's why you get the smart people. Because they're so tunneled in one way because of that one antibody that they're working from. And the rest is just energy. Developing more connections with that one way. And so, yeah, the blood type A and B might be more like analysts. Analysts, right? They're the scientists. They're the ones that they understand small picture. And then the blood type O, right? They're more probably more big picture. But then you could take someone like a Steve Jobs who's O positive and make him small picture and big picture, but be brutal. So it's all in how it's all programming. All right. So I had to correct that from yesterday because I had this rigid belief about blood type A and B is like, smarter than blood type O, but not necessarily. They can be very tunneled in the way they go about stuff because remember they're working from one antibody versus a bunch. And then those antibodies take over. No different than blood type O. You can have a bunch of cancer from the antibodies you hold from blood type A and B, but even blood type A and B will still have antibodies and can collect them from whatever it is that they've been exposed to. So if you're blood type A with B antibodies and you've exposed to blood type B people and you have the B antibodies, that's what you're working from. That's just causing you to gain weight or be smart or whatever. So I get it now, but I had sort of a weird way of looking at it. But I had to compartmentalize like that in order for me to then work from that. So it's all levels. It's all the stories that you develop to give you one understanding, one aspect of the world until you evolve that. Be like, oh wait, hold on a second. Let me correct myself. That's not what I thought, but here's in a more plausible story. Okay? Excuse me. And so, which is why I don't cultivate too much diversity in my world, because that's a lot of battles to fight. I understand diversity and I can handle them in small doses, but I don't actively inject myself in aggressively diverse groups. People spit on you when they're talking, and you're eating people's microbes when you're in a public eating out, even doing takeout food. So I have enough diverse programming, and then I get exposed to other diversity, then I can deal with that antibody outcome and take on the knowledge and release the demons. So I get enough diverse exposure with the life that I have. Any more than that, I'm fighting demons. Okay, so I'm not going to parties. I'm not going to go to concerts. I'm not going to go to major get-togethers. No fucking way. Because even though last year I went to a party and I got all the hives and I got really huge, so bloated, I'm still not going to, what am I going to do? I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to what am I going to talk to people about? They're like, Jillian's weird. I already know what people think of me, so I don't even interact with anyone too diverse. And so I'm not trying to be fake either, you know? So there's nothing really, I don't do social shit. Maybe one-on-one if a person can handle my information, but then what happens? It becomes then Jillian's a teacher, or Jillian's trying to convert. Maybe my husband has to, find ways to like make sure he doesn't get taken over by me. Because my information is pretty intense. His information about the politics and all that shit, pretty intense. So I let him have his politics, and I'll let him, but he have his politics, his trucking, his fishing, his friends stuff. Okay, fine. And I have my world. And they do converge occasionally. We both offer each other little bits of our world, but we don't try to take over. Okay? We learned that. And we even have our own separate sides of the house. Okay? So we give each other space. That's how marriages can probably survive, is no children, no major people coming into you and telling you that you're doing stupid stuff, or no one coming in and interfering with your stuff. And you have your separate sides of the house so you can have your space, but still enjoy the person, still miss the person. And that's why my relationship with him has lasted this long, because we give each other space, we let each other have our world. We may not necessarily agree with everything that we stand for. I don't agree with, fighting for the right wing or the left wing. Whatever happens, happens. But I'm not going to be like, oh gosh, if Kamala or Michelle Obama gets in office, it's going to be a resistance. Nah. I can handle both parties. All right? And so anyways, change the climate, change the people. Family, friends, and fights. All right, so from the video I put out there yesterday, the different cancers everyone deals with is not solely about their blood types. Though blood types could contribute to intellectual capability, but drugs could also be the culprit for cancers in all blood types. Okay, so when you're trying to speed up your brain because you're trying to compete with some other people, then you're using so much energy, causing an energy conversion and depleting your resources. And then the entities within that you haven't released will then try to take over. They actually try to come up, right? It's like using up all your resources in one area, and then whoever's in the wings, like your understudy, is like, oh, it's like the understudies of any kind of entertainment performances, then they are the ones that are performing. But they're like the cancers in the background. So when the main performer can't do it because she's been used and abused for such a long time, then it's the understudies that come up and become the new thing. But that's the thing with people, is their understudy, the cancers, will try to take over and shut everything down. Okay? So it dawned on me why people like using brain drugs, amphetamines, to speed up drinks and other uppers, or use them to speed up their brain and compete with those who already have that capability. Why some people use their kids Adderall drugs that had the opposite effect on them. I knew someone way back when that used their kids, ADHD medication so they can compete in school, so they can stay up all night and study for tests. Yeah, when you have to compete and perform for people, people will do things like take drugs, even misuse prescriptions, and that's not good, but that's what people do. Okay, and then you pay the piper later, but yeah. And those who have too much energy need to take drugs to slow down their immune system or their adrenaline. And so it's like a raping in the body instead of releasing the demons. And so either side of slowing down your immune system or speeding it up, you have to support it with food, and using drugs regardless will only age you more aggressively, and then eventually it'll be an agonizing pain. But I couldn't tell you if the path to releasing that instability would be worth it. And so now I understand the power of blood types and what antibody A and B is from the antigen A and B. Those are basically offspring, and those chemical reactions can work for you or against you based upon how you program those microbes. And that's why they request the people to take the shot for the Rh negative, the RhoGAM shot, right? If you have a baby. At this point, I wouldn't even go there if you didn't have to, because become whole again, in my opinion, but again, that's painful for people. But declining in this environment is also extremely painful. So choose your poison. I mean, you just hope you're somewhere in the middle where you can handle the pain and suffering. Either way. And so too much kinetic energy localized in any one area over time will develop cancer, disease, pain, and suffering. And so brain cancer, too much blood type antibodies, developing kinetic reactions to blood types can develop antibodies in the brain. But you get eggheads or smart people, but the kinetic energy also impacts the brain. Imagine a boxer getting so much kinetic energy localized all over the body. Holy shit. Blood type A and B, antigen A and B with B antibodies. You have B antibodies taking over one day, but in the meantime cause chemical reactions, which is why blood type A and B might have the most issues with COVID-19. They said because they're developing antibodies that will attack them later. If you are blood type O and you have too many antibodies from you might. I don't know. See, that's the thing. Why is blood type A and B? Because they don't have enough diversity to be able to go and ping pong. And so when you have less diversity in your body, you don't have enough of the diversity to handle all of that information. And so then you're in resistance. And so that's my guess of why COVID-19 is so much more aggressive for those who are blood type A and B. But yeah, I mean, but even blood type O, but maybe blood type O has more diversity, more ability to handle the new information, because there's somewhere there's exposure. But those who are blood type A and B, they don't have enough exposure to diversity, so it's more of a resistance, and then it's a diet suddenly, right? And so holding antibodies for both make you a bit bigger, but then holding antibodies for one can make you a bit bigger relative to this situation. But it's all relative to how it's programmed. Okay? All right, so Steve Jobs had antibodies for both, but he was O positive, so he was dealing with a lot of chemical reactions, just made him smarter. O positive can be extremely volatile if not managed and regulated correctly. So you saw what I was like the last 7 years, okay? O positive, which is most of the population, we're just taking on information, and then we have to find a way to release the demons, or else we blow up or starve ourselves, right? So you can be so skinny because you're so much information, or so obese because you have so much information. So what's the future of blood type in the world? It all depends on how you manage the energy. I couldn't even tell you. But as it stands, O positive is the most prevalent blood type. And women who get cervical and ovarian cancer and even anal cancer, as well as men, that's too much kinetic energy localized in those areas. And then the breast cancer is prevalent among women who've had a lot of families, brothers and sisters, and babies, right? So women dying of ovarian and cervical cancer, you need to start realizing those antibodies and that impact to those areas from those men are destroying your uterus and your cervix and your ovaries. Men who get testicular cancer and penis cancer, yes, you use your penis and your testicles too much. Lay off. Find a way to relax the demons so you're not always triggering that crazy sexual reproduction. Your gut holds a reason why you have that incubus and succubus causing all of your sexual orientation. So could O negative be balanced blood type? O positive is having too much of a good thing and then trying to manage those positive and negatives in the body, which is a bunch of chemical reactions causing a lot of pressure building up, and then people try to manage the pressure through starvation or other drugs. So O positive has a lot of conflicting antibodies causing a lot of sexual reproduction unless you know how to release the demons. Could someone one day turn into an O negative and have a complete balance without dying from old age? Could O negative equal immortality, so as long as you can release the demons and not allow too much corruption within your body, mind, and spirit? Google says it's not possible, but there's always special circumstances such as, infection, all that. And so, just so you know, the blood types A and Bs are positive and negative, and that's why they get the antibodies from the opposite blood type, and then the blood type O's hold antibodies for both. and they become surrogate mothers. So basically, when you think about it, the blood type O's become the surrogate mothers of the blood types A and B, who are the tunneled information. And it's all relative to how it's programmed. And so the blood type O's hold the information, and then we process it. But the blood types A and B are almost like the human sacrifice, unless they can figure out how to manage infection, and maybe could they change from a blood type A and B to blood type O? I don't know. And so they become the surrogate mothers. So blood type O's hold antibodies for both. They become the surrogate mothers. They hold on to everyone's children or microbial offspring, and then spit them out on you in public venues. So I wouldn't glorify 50 Shades of Grey lifestyle or forcing your girls and boys to have kids, because you're asking for a world of hurt. Okay? All right. Let me go to the restroom. Okay. And so blocking and deleting trolls stops the manipulating power exchange between people. And so you save yourself from being sucked dry, and you don't abuse your power by responding to trolls or disputes. Killing trolls with kindness is also a form of manipulation. So this is now about how to manage and control the energy conversion and your power exchange, and not use your power for evil, only for good. Okay? And so, in my opinion, that is a person who knows how to control their powers, and they don't use their power for evil, called forced conversion, even though the person is asking for it. I do not make it a habit of giving everyone what they want, or else I will end up like the crypt keeper or overly abundant. Death is when a person could not manage the power they had or what was given to them. They became drunk with power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so family equals Titanic. All right. So when I showed you those pictures a while ago of the pink or the blue dad, and he has holes in him, and then those holes, there's a pink daughter with blue in her, right? So dad is full of holes, and his daughters and sons are the representation of the holes in the parents. And so eventually, when you make too many holes in that genetic line, when the kids are having kids and the kids of kids start having kids, you then deplete that genetic line. So family equals Titanic. The family is a ship, and the passengers are the offspring, the donut holes that were punched out of the ship to keep that ship afloat for a second until it sinks. Families equal sinking ships full of holes and donut holes they try to plug up by punching holes in the ship to fill in the holes, leaking water. One day that ship sinks. The family keeps punching too many holes in the ship, and it couldn't keep itself afloat, and so everybody drowned. Certain families survive the sinking ships out there, but not many, because they keep punching too many holes, and there's not enough life rafts to save everybody on the ship. Forcing your daughters to have children because you want to feel whole, grandma, is like punching holes in your own family life raft. You'll destroy your family. People are actively destroying their family, forcing their daughters and sons to have children. That's another donut hole that will then be used to fill in the holes of the grandmother. The children are the donut holes that were punched out of the mother and then actually trying to reinsert it into the mother, right? And that's all the relationships. The grandchildren are the donut holes punched out of the daughter trying to fulfill the grandmother's lack of wholeness. Then it's the family's vampirism. Then it's family vampirism, and they all feed off each other. Those are large families, okay? And then everybody is like a tinderbox. And there's a tinderbox full of feelings and emotions, and because everyone's punching holes in each other, then trying to use each other to fill in the holes, but not only do they resent each other, but they are attracted to each other, and then absolute power corrupts absolutely. And they all break down from disease and cancer and die suddenly. So when you get all these opposites because you've punched holes out of your body and now you have a kid, now you want to hang out with it, and then you're all like this all the time because someone didn't do something, or you kill them with kindness, or you let them walk all over you. I mean, you can see in all the families how they treat each other. That's why I don't want family. I don't want to have so many friends, because it's the same dynamic. You're bringing in people that are fulfilling the hole that you basically punched in yourself through alcohol, drugs, and sex and experiences. And that's why there's so many friend bases, so many big families, so many positive religion, science, and religion, all that stuff. So I walk away from it all. And so then I showed you through the octet rule, transferring electrons is called chaos, entropy, ionic, salting out. Sharing electrons, when you're bringing stuff together, negentropy, covalent, bonding, salting in, cured. Okay, so now you've seen all the connections of all these different concepts that I brought together finally the last 8 years. Always, always talk to your doctor before you try anything new to you. The Jilly Juice world is understanding the power of salt but not abusing it or mischaracterizing what you're doing or what's happening. Salting in becomes whole or negentropy, cured, equals sharing of electrons. And you must have every single food in the government pyramid of America. You can't be gluten-free, salt-free, milk-free, sugar-free, or else you'll starve and die. Now look at those who are dealing with diabetes, those who are gluten-free, plant-based diets, always doing detoxes, in the gym all the time, building up pressure to look healthy, but they're not, because one day it's going to pop. You can't be gluten-free, salt-free, milk-free, sugar-free, or else you'll starve and die. I mean, how else do you convert your food into vital organs? You can't make something out of nothing. You need meat to convert into your heart, into your lungs, and your kidneys, and your muscles. Plant-based people are starving to death. Salting out is purifying, purging, and entropy. Chaos equals transferring electrons or violations of the octet rule. This is why you must understand the power of purging, and you can't abuse this either. And it must be done slowly, and you have to have your body conditioned to release. Violating the octet rule is not necessarily a bad thing. It's called evolution. Evolution, right? You must learn how to balance the power of retention and release. So you want your organs to become whole, and you want to release the demons. And you must trust the intelligence of your body if you understand how to read the signals and indicators. When you share electrons, you're bonding cells together to then make your organs whole and complete. When you transfer electrons, you're allowing the body to release the damage and then become whole again. That was the pain, the suffering. But to do that, you must have milk. Milk, not goat milk, cow's milk, or whatever milk they can replicate for you to then develop those mucus and amino acids and vitamin A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, okay? So you have to have you must have milk and meat and cheese and eggs and fruits and vegetables, and you have to feel pain and suffering, and you have to do these things slowly so you don't overwhelm your system with this type of energy conversion or ionic or covalent bonding, and talk to your doctor yet again. Salting out, ionic bonding, is a type of chemical bonding that involves the electrostatic attraction between opposites charged ions or between two atoms with sharply different electronegativities, and is the primary interaction of occurring in ionic compounds. It is one of the main types of bonding along with covalent bonding and metallic bonding. Ions are atoms or groups of atoms with electrostatic charge. Atoms that gain electrons make negatively charged ions called anions and anions. Atoms that lose electrons make positively charged ions called cations. This transfer of electrons is known as electrovalence in contrast to covalence. In the simplest case, the cation is a metal atom and the anion is a non-metal atom. But these ions can be more complex, molecular ions like NH, Okay, so in simpler words, an ionic bond results from the transfer of electrons from metal to non-metal, obtain a full valence shell for both atoms. That's why you have trace minerals. But when you're over-mineralized, then you get the rigor mortis prematurely. Then you get the stiff man syndrome, the stiff person syndrome, because they need milk. They need protein. They need fucking milk. Okay? Salting in. A covalent bond is a chemical bond that involves the sharing of electrons to form electron pairs between atoms. That's bringing your organs together, growing your organs. These electron pairs are known as shared pairs of bonding pairs, the stable balance of attractive and repulsive forces between atoms when they share electrons is known as covalent bonding. For many molecules, the sharing of electrons allows each atom to attain the equivalent of a full valence shell, which is 8 electrons, corresponding to a stable electronic configuration. In organic chemistry, a covalent bonding is much more common than ionic bonding. All right, so the whole J world was about the chaos and the cured relative to your situation. And when you survive a heart attack and stroke, it means that you had enough substance to you to handle that energy conversion. But now you need to start building up the infrastructure to handle the body pushing shit through. But what do people do? They get operations. They get shit redirected. They get all these different diets forced on them. They can't have meat, milk, cheese, eggs, or salt and everything else. So they're only left eating air fucking sandwiches. They're starving. And then they get mean. Starving people are mean. I'm serious. Okay? And that's why you can't go back to the past if you don't have to. When people are in major decline, they're fucking mean. And they will hurt you psychologically. They may not hurt you physically because you could probably run away from them. But psychologically, they know how to fuck with you. And they will kill you with kindness or they will send daggers to you. So, yeah. So now you understand that you're going to have to deal with some shit. If you want to survive all this crazy stuff, you're going to have to deal with everything that you've ever undergone voluntarily or involuntarily. And some people right now are trying to figure out how to survive the memories of abuse, of so much stuff. And they're trying to find ways through the holistic world, through the medical system, how to put those memories to sleep. I'm telling you, the more you resist, the more it'll persist. You have to release the demons and rebuild the infrastructure. Give yourself new memories. And I couldn't tell you if you can do that or not. Some people are too far gone. But I wasn't that far gone. I had a stable enough platform and a lot of bullshit I had to deal with to be able to get to this point. But could my information and what I've offered to you guys give you guys like a shortcut to understand? I had to learn how to understand what's going on through 8 years of suffering. Maybe what I can impart to you might it's not going to take away your suffering. You're going to have to suffer, but at least you know what the suffering is for. At least you know that you could probably survive it if you have enough space and allowance from the people around you, because that's who you're ultimately going to have to deal with, people around you stopping you from trying to evolve. And if it's easier to get lost in the distraction of your friends and family, then do it. Because if you could do what I'm doing, you'd do it already. You would already set up your world because you know that you can handle it and you didn't have too much of the distractions out there to tempt you to stay distracted. And maybe, those that stay in that old world have enough substance, enough gifts that they don't want to give it up until they're forced to. And if you're forced to give up what you know, you either die suddenly or you're taken down several notches to where you're forced to change your life. And that's sometimes the turning point for people is either somebody dies right next to them or they're taken down so many notches where they can't do the same job or the same things. And so that's when you either change your life or find a way to resist until you don't exist anymore. Okay. All right. So I feel great. Can feel good. Oh my God, I feel good. And so here you go. This is Jillian University, and there is no continuing education credits. This is just pure knowledge that you can take or leave. All right, bye. Thanks.